Good morning and welcome to our devotional today that's found in Galatians chapter 6 verses 1 and 2. The title for today's devotional is Thus Fulfill the Law of Christ. So it reads like this. Brothers, if someone is caught in a trespass, you who are spiritual should restore him with a spirit of gentleness. But watch yourself, or you also may be tempted. Carry one another's burdens, and in this way you will fulfill the law of Christ. When we think of the law of Christ, we don't see that very often in the Scriptures. We should think of a set of governing principles. You might respond to the idea of fulfilling a law, any law, as just another effort to establish one's own righteousness. This is something Paul clearly taught against in his letter to the Galatians and Romans, of course. You could cite Romans chapter 6 verse 14 where we're told that we're not under law but under grace. You'd be right. We're not looking for ways to become righteous. We have been made righteous. Romans 5, 1 through 11. Yet we might be overlooking the way of righteousness, a path that we all should follow. And the law of Christ being something like the instructions for that path. So in the text, the law of Christ is very specific. It carries the two definite articles in the Greek, which means it is the law of the Christ. It is quite specific. I'm guessing that a lot of believers who long to be Christ-like might struggle to define what the law of Christ actually is. Most would say it's loving God and others. That's true, but it can get a little abstract. The central question in fulfilling any law isn't just to know what it requires, but to understand how that should be accomplished. Fortunately, our text tells just how to go about fulfilling the law of Christ. It's really very clear. At least one way of fulfilling the law of Christ involves carrying one another's burdens. It's about helping when you are able. Being able means being spirit-led and gentle. When the burden another person is carrying is a trespass or a sin, it also means being wise and humble and not thinking too highly of yourself so you don't fall into temptation. I wonder how often we really pay enough attention to others to actually see the burdens they're carrying or struggling to carry. First of all of us have burdens that we have to carry. Sometimes, though, they can become so heavy that it's really very difficult and it's discouraging for us. We feel like we're failing. But when we see others carrying heavy burdens, instead of being concerned, do we wonder how they got themselves into this mess? Are they simply, perhaps getting what they deserve? Maybe that's true in some cases. Yet our attitude in that kind of response is a little suspect. Remember that the natural man doesn't seek the things of God. They seem foolish to him. So restoration, reconciliation, renewal do seem foolish to the natural man who's wholly occupied with himself. So let's try not to be foolish in our walk as Christians. For an exercise of faith today, let's try something. Take a moment and ask someone close to you how they're doing. Let them speak. If the conversation gets there, ask if they're carrying a burden that seems a bit too heavy these days. Remember also to be transparent about your own life and tell them about your burdens that sometimes can be heavy. Use wisdom if those are trespasses, obviously. That involves a spirit-led person and one that is not going to be tempted or fall into some trap because of the trespass. Most things like this can be simply things that we're just worried about. It's just too much. It's been hard getting through it. It could be loss in their life. It could be they're worried about keeping their job, or they're worried about peace in their family or something like that. So it breaks the ice when we talk about our own concerns. So this is a great exercise between spouses, parents, children, family, and other believers. Simply asking the questions and being transparent conveys care and humility. And care in turn conveys love. I think that's where the law of Christ comes in. And I believe that it's pleasing to the Lord to do these things. We can see that a little bit further in our chapter 6 of Galatians today, verse 8, where it says it pleases the Holy Spirit. But we'll have to save that for another devotional. For now, let's let these thoughts sink in a little bit. And thank you for being with us today. God bless you. Have a wonderful day.